Take our listeners back to the beginning so we understand the drive behind your servant model, kind of the express route from your childhood to who you are today.
I was in solitary confinement, which they call the hole, the shoe, whatever you would call it. But it's about a 4x8 box. When you're in the hole for almost a year, you think about a lot. You think about, how did I get here? Like, how did I get here? There was an old commercial. It was in the Say No campaign. They showed this camera on this guy, and he was running across the screen, and it says,
"No one ever says, I want to be a junkie when I grow up."
but it shows the cop catching the dude by the collar, right? I thought about the commercial. I'm like, I do want to be a drug dealer. This is the mindset that I had from the upbringing that I had, from the lack of fathers, from the lack of a male role model. I don't care what season you're in. I don't care what journey you're in. One thing I do know is that time did pass, and I became stronger, and I learned from it. This too shall pass. Nothing you're going through will last forever.
This is Sparta!
Welcome back to Spartan Leadership, everyone. I'm your host, Josh Kosnick, and I am excited today. I got my brother from another mother, Brad Modrich, on the Zoom today. He is a man on a mission for a lot of things, but conquering conflicts, mindset, multi-business owner, certified personal trainer, published author, husband, father, and fellow Arte brother. Please join me in welcoming, again, my brother from another mother, Brad Modrich. How you doing today, brother?
I'm good, bro, man. But what a strong intro. I gotta make sure I write that check to you for that strong intro. Appreciate
it's
that,
all
man.
true.
Thank you.
It's all true.
Yeah.
So
Excited to be on here today, bro.
well, we get to chop it up for a bit, give as much to our audience as possible. And I know you're going to bring the heat, and we'll start with, did a little recon on you, and we've got to know each other over the past year and a half, and have a lot in common. But one of the things Alicia found on you is one of these mottos that you have Brad's got a lot of mottos, by the way, guys. This guy can, this guy can spit them out for a while and motivate the masses. But one of them that I really liked that she found was, do things for people who will never be able to repay you. And I know you live by that because I've seen it in action. But as we have that in mind, take our listeners back to the beginning so we understand the drive behind your servant model, kind of the express route from your childhood to who you are today.
Oh man, that's a big package to unpack.
Well, I know we talked through some of it yesterday.
Yeah, do things for others. That's what I put on the intro of the book that I wrote in 2019 with a former associate of mine. When you do things for someone else that can't repay you, and just to kind of peel that back, like why that just vibrates so strong with me. I always, growing up, single mom, low household income, typical city kid, right? Nothing special about me. We played some sports. My mom worked multiple jobs. It is what it is. That's a whole other conversation. But I always remember seeing like kids with their fathers and their parents and them showing them like what to do. And we didn't have that resource. We didn't have a resource of strong parents showing like their kids how to be good human beings. So when I started I think really where it came in for me is when I started with LA Fitness, when I think that's really when the whole personal development thing started for me. Well, it actually started in prison, actually making a choice that I didn't want to go down that road. But then as I kind of got put into the corporate infrastructure with LA Fitness, I found out what personal development is. I found out like what it means to be a leader, right? I had to learn leadership principles first. John Maxwell, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership was the first leadership book I ever read. And just understanding that if I do something for someone without them having to ask, like I just put a deposit into that person to make that person a better. And when I seen from doing this with like my membership counselors and doing it for people who were working for me, and I seen the gratification they got, that like when the light bulb went on, that just it became addictive. Just being able to teach people some simple shit. And I'm not talking like trying to figure out the cure to cancer. Like I'm talking about like how to approach someone, how to handle someone, the build method. I'm sorry, the sandwich method, the build, break, build, right? We all heard that technique when managing people, and teaching, you know, one of my junior managers, like how to like really get someone to do something for you is by understanding them and getting to know them. And then once you get to know them, you could drive them to do better. And then once they start to actually run the play and they do it, that is like, just fill my fucking cup, bro. It just fills it. It fills it on a whole other level. And these are just like simple principles. And I want to stay in that pocket of simple principles, because by no means am I a highly educated. And when I say educated, I don't have this huge vocabulary. I don't have all of these, you know, stoic principles that I live by, just some real simple stuff. And I found that when I pour into people, it's going to sound fucked up, but when I pour into like my street people, the people that kind of have the same background that I come from, I kind of know their language. So I know how to get them to kind of make it make sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not here trying to help the, like, I mean, and I mean this on a whole other professional level. Like, you know, we talked about kind of where you're at in your journey. You have built some major building blocks in your life. Like it's unquestionable, like they're tangible, real things that you physically have created through your trauma and through your pain and through your pain points. You know, if you were in, you know, and I got this from Nash, like you're in 9th grade, I'm still in 4th grade, kind of, you know, in where we're at in our entrepreneurial journey. Right.
Right.
So knowing that, I'm not trying to teach the 9th graders. I want to teach the 3rd graders. I want to teach the 2nd graders. And then as I come up, I want to continue to keep teaching the 2nd graders and the people in kindergarten, because that's the point where we're really going to have an impact, right? Like me getting you to go from 7 figures to 8 figures to 9 figures, you could do that on your own. Like you have the tangible skills, you've done it. The people that don't have those resources, the old Brads, that's who I pour into with some simple principles. So if I can do things for those people without expecting anything in return, that's what it's about. I'm not looking for the kudo. I'm not looking for the yeah. You know what I mean? And it's what's needed right now. Like it's really what's needed. There's 2 things that are needed: compassion for other people to help and be there for them and to really help them grow. And then an extreme ownership to take action and hold ourselves accountable for our own shit. Like if we can get those 2 wheels spinning in America, man, there's just powerful things. We will be right back on track. And it's going to be relentless, because as we talked, there is a battle between good and evil right now. There's a spiritual battle, which, you know, we have talked because of the groups that, you know, we're in. But that giving without expecting anything in return, man, it's dying, and we have to be the people that bring it back.
Yeah, I totally agree. And one thing you hit on that's really simple but really powerful is you'll know you're a leader when you find more joy in helping others than you do in your own success.
Yeah.
And I found that to be true over and over again. You don't get, let's say you're, take it back to your LA Fitness days or anything else where that you've been a leader in, you won't be jealous or envious of someone doing better than you when you're helping them do that. That's when you know you're a leader. Those that aren't necessarily meant to be leaders are ones that do get jealous or envious because their competitive fire is, they're more wired to be individual producers. By the way, nothing right or wrong with either one, but if you're questioning whether or not you want to be a leader or you are a leader, it's when you can find joy in seeing others succeed, even if they're succeeding more than you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to make
Bro.
sure, because you glossed on that, and I just want to make sure the audience got that piece.
And you know, and here, this is a real question for you too, bro. I find that sometimes I put too much into it and it takes away from like my job, right? Because I am so adamant. Do you ever find that?
Yeah.
I mean, last week, I think there was like 8 or 9 hours I spent just pouring into people on phone calls. You know, call them coaching calls, call them whatever the hell you want to call them. It was an opportunity where someone had an issue that they were trying to navigate through, and they reached out, and I'm there, I answer, you know, and a lot of people are like, why do you do that? Like, you know, you should limit your time and your accessibility to people. And I'm like, no, I think that's fucking bullshit. Like, first off, yeah, I get it. And they're like, well, value your time and it's about the money. It's not about money for me. Like, money's fucking mechanical. Like, it's mechanical. It could be duplicated. It could be repeated. It's rinse and repeat. It's systems. Like, the money's mechanical. And I always hear people say this. Oh, well, you said that because you got money. Well, I ran the fucking play though. Like, I did the work, right? I showed up consistently. So if you can do that and you could show up consistently, like, my big challenge right now is because from a financial standpoint, we're healthy. Like, we have a healthy financial situation. I just want to keep giving into people. I want to keep pouring into people. I keep giving and keep doing and keep giving. Like, it's just vibrating so hard with me right now. And sometimes it's the gift and the curse. Do you experience that?
Yeah, it's definitely a gift and a curse. And I think that only you, the individual, can answer that question as to how much time is too much time and how much giving is too much giving to any one person. I think, like, if you're fielding 8 different calls from 8 different people and it just happened to be that week, so be it. And you wanted to help and you had the time to help, then so be it. However, if it's the same people calling you over and over and over again, it's like, hey, by the way, I actually charge for coaching like this. Like, this is what I do. And so it's like, you know, we should probably take this to a different relationship if we're going to continue having these conversations, or setting boundaries with them to say, hey, I can't be your crutch every time because I've given you the tools. Now go run the play. Right. Or maybe you need more of a counselor type relationship, and I am not qualified to be that. And I would suggest you go and find a person that you trust. Like, there's certain, like, you got to reach that limit with every different person and every different relationship. But I've certainly felt taken advantage of before as well. But that's on me for not setting that boundary or having that difficult conversation with a person.
Yeah, I always do set expectations with my calls. I'm very clear with that. Like, one thing I always say to people, like, if we set a time, I value my time. If you don't show up, you get one other chance, and that's it. It's 2-strike rule on that. For no shows, you don't communicate, you don't show up, you don't have my time. You're not worthy of it. And that's not like a cocky thing. That's just like, bro, I got shit to do. Like, I'm going to save the time for you. If you're going to be here, fucking show up. That's number one. Number two, always do the right thing, right? Always do the right thing. If you call me and it's a question about doing the right thing, don't even call me because you're not doing the right thing. Right? That's number two. And then three, I always set the expectation that if we talk and we come up with a solution and you commit that you're going to execute it and you're going to do it, and you don't do it, you don't have my time. What's the point of calling me, running this option, if you're not going to use it? You know, now typically on that, I give people, because here, one thing, and I'm sure you get this. A lot of people talk to us about fitness because of our physique. We're in good shape. We work out. You know, how many, I can guarantee you get this. When people see you, there's an immediate like, oh, I got to get back in the gym. Man, I've been slipping, right? Do you get that? Like, people feel guilty about their level of fitness when they talk to us, right?
I've been told, Brad, this is funny. I've been told by one of my best friends that I'm not allowed to take my shirt off at his pool. when I go, now, most of the time he's joking. Our daughters are very close friends, and I know he's joking, but it's just funny, those comments that do come out.
Yeah, right. Because we take pride in it, right? So like when people are saying like, hey, I'm going to start my workout goals and they don't because this happened and that happened, I give people a 3-strike rule. Like, don't come to me. Like, if there's 3 times we talk about something and you're not going to do it, there's literally no need for us to have a conversation, right? Because one, we don't speak the same language. You don't do what you say you're going to do. That's just fuck. I don't understand. If you say you're going to do something, you do it. And it's just been, it's good because I keep those boundaries. And I think just having that conversation with people, let people know, and it also weeds people out. Like, I don't hear from people. Like, straight up, I don't hear from people. Like, I seen some people down at the summit that they started these calls with me. I held them accountable, had the fucking tough conversation. And when I see them, I'm like, yo, what happened to you, bro? And they're like, oh man, and then all of a sudden it's just this grocery list of excuses that I hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like, hey man, it's on you. But yeah, I love like giving to people. It's something that, bro, it just feels fucking good. It feels good.
All right. So you also breezed by this in part of your intro, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about it. I had Damon West on the show not too long ago, and he shared his amazing story. I don't think, outside of your tattoos, that anyone that met you today would ever believe that you were in prison.
Yeah.
And just honest, bro, like the man you are, the father you are, the spouse you are, the Christian man you are, the motivator you are, like, no way anyone meets today's version of Brad Modrich would ever believe you spent time in prison.
Yeah.
So I want the audience to hear a little bit from you, whatever you were willing to share about prison to now.
This is something that's been vibrating on me hard lately, Josh, is about talking about it more. Because the one thing I didn't want it to do is I didn't want it to be part of my identity, but it is part of my identity. It is part of who I am. If I didn't go through what I went through, there's no way in shape or form I would be doing what I'm doing today. It just would never have happened. But getting incarcerated for me was, besides my family and my wife and my kids, was the best thing that ever happened to me. And we obviously we're in the Warriors for Christ. We talked about, when we're going through these tough waters and we're going through these challenges, you could never understand. Sometimes it just doesn't grasp from a conceptual standpoint why it is you're going through what you're going through. When I was going through that arrest, and I'll show you how crazy the dichotomy in the thought process changes, because when I initially got arrested, the man at that time expected to get arrested. The man at that time expected, like, me getting arrested was like me getting my stripes in the Marine Corps. It was part of the process. It was calcifying the criminal gangster, thug mentality that I had. Like, me getting arrested was like Ray Liotta popping his cherry in Goodfellas. It was the same concept. So when I got arrested, it was like, this was expected. And then, I talked to you about this, recently. God, moment, whatever that was. There came that time when I was in prison, when I looked at that guy, he asked me if this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. That it wasn't. Like, that was a major move, because I physically went upstairs and I was like, no, this is not the lifestyle I'm going to live. And up until that point, I wanted to be I wanted to be the bad guy. I wanted to be the guy who was drug dealing and making money and girls and strippers. And that was the guy that I wanted to be. In my head, I played that movie out a million times, from the guns to the money to the, the scenes, to the cars, to the girls, to the life. Like, that is what I wanted to be. I remember there was an old, and you'll probably remember this. there was an old commercial. It was in the Say No campaign, just say no to drugs, or the Dare campaign. Remember the Dare campaign? It was Reagan's campaign. There was this guy they showed this camera on this guy, and he was running across the screen. He was just running as fast as he can. And then all of a sudden the screen zooms out and there's a cop running after him. Right. And they zoom the camera out and there's this cop chasing this criminal. And it says, no one ever said that I wanted to be a drug dealer when I grew up. And it shows the cop catching the dude by the collar, right? Like catching him from behind. Remember that?
In a long time,
bro. So first, when I was a kid and I saw that, and this is the mindset that I had from the upbringing that I had, from the lack of fathers, from the lack of a male role model. First thing in my mind was, that cop would have never caught me, ever. That cop wouldn't have caught me. I would have been gone. That bitch would have been in my rear view. He wouldn't have caught me. And then I thought about the commercial. I'm like, I do want to be a drug dealer. Yeah, I do. I know what it can do. I know what it does. I see it in the movies. I see it, on the street. I see it. That's what I want. And that was my role model. It was inevitable for me to get arrested. Like it wouldn't have made sense if I didn't get arrested because of the life that I was living. So that happens. Guy checks me. You learn a lot about yourself in prison, and a couple things come to life. One, everyone that says, oh, prison's so hard, right? Prison can be hard, right? If life on the streets is hard for you, there's no question life in prison is going to be even harder on you.
Yeah.
Right? Life in the streets for me was easy because there was always that leadership mentality. There was always, hey, Brad, what are we getting into? It was always that communicative, like coming back to Brad, like, what are we doing? Call the shots. Where are we going? That just transferred into prison. And immediately, just from being able to be a chameleon and build common grounds. And I'm a street kid, man. I think I had one white friend. Like everybody was Puerto Rican, Dominican, Black, like we were like a mixing pot. And I'm Arab. I'm Arabic, right? So I'm the Arab in the crew. And like where we grow up, like we didn't have, like, for me, I didn't experience racism. So when I went into prison, I don't go in with this, oh, you got the white guys, you got the Nietas, you got the Muslim, you got this. I went in, I'm with my people. Like I felt right at home with everyone. You know what I mean? So I had the ability to just, you can connect with people, right? And then it just so happened as it transitioned, because I was really into fitness prior to getting locked up, I became that fitness guy in prison. I started writing workout programs, got certified as a personal trainer, fell in love with fitness. Wanted to open up a gym when I got out. Like for the next 2.5 years, all I did was consume every magazine. Like, bro, I remember the muscle development magazines, right? Yep. And all of them, all of the bodybuilding magazine, Muscle and Fitness, all of them. Bro, I would read. And this is again, how moldable I was back then. And this is way before Instagram or social media, or this is even before the internet. I'm going back, like this is 2000, like internet really wasn't even a big thing at the time, right? Magazine after magazine. I literally, when I got home, the first purchase I made, I bought every single Nitro Tech thing you could possibly imagine. Muscle Tech, Nitro Tech, their creatine. I'm like, I'm going to get huge because the guys in the magazines, this is how they got big. And I was, first off, just so fooled by it. And I remember just becoming that fitness guy in prison. And it transitioned. Got a job as a certified personal trainer right when I got out. Privately owned gym here in Allentown. This woman, Shelly, gave me a shot. And I haven't looked back. I haven't looked back 1 second. It's just been a constant evolving 20+ year process of personal development. Still battling demons, still battling trauma, still going through it. I don't want anyone to ever think like it goes away, because it doesn't. It doesn't. I don't care what level of the game you're at. I think personal development has helped me understand how to um, be a better person, right? First, by
Yeah.
obviously I had the physical thing. The mental thing is probably the biggest battlefield out there right now.
Oh,
And
100%.
this is where if I'm excited about anything right now where I'm at, it's the ability to just be able to control my emotions and just think about what next moves are. That right there, Josh, bro, I can't even begin to tell you, has saved relationships, have I've made so much better decisions, and it just has gotten so much better because of just really concentrating on working on becoming better. And I think this is one thing a lot of people don't do. And it goes back to, prison. It's where it all started. And if it wasn't for prison, I wouldn't have this mindset. I couldn't see that back then when I got arrested. But me getting arrested was hands down one of the best pivot points in my life because
Yeah.
it got me out of that life of crime. It got me out of that. Now, mind you, I can say successfully, it took me 20 years to really get to where I'm at. So the people who are in personal development that want this immediate kind of quick gratification, I want to see something instantly. I've been fucking working on this for 20 years, this thing up here. And it's still kind of re-tracking and re-hardwiring neural patterns and habits and thought processes and stimulated responses because that identity in me was quick grab, shoot first, ask questions later. Right? That's really where that's for me the magic is I went from a quick shooter, gunslinger to a methodical, strategic listener.
That's really good right there. I think a lot of people need to key in on that because when you're and the reason you're able to do so is because you're in control of your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not in control of your emotions, you're constantly on the whim of that quick shooter mentality that you're talking about. When you can check your emotions and understand the emotions that you're having and pivot to then thinking about being that strategic long-term thinker, or sniper, if you will, if we're going from the quick shooter to sniper analogy, like it changes everything, because you think about it as an emotional young male, whether you went to prison or not, we all made stupid decisions at that time frame, and almost all of them were emotionally based. Not one did we go logically, oh yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Only in hindsight would we do that. In the moment, it's going to be an emotional, often stupid decision. Hey, one thing on your story. Did you ever catch that old guy's name in prison?
Right.
Did you ever catch his
No,
name? Did you ever have another conversation with him again? And for those that I want to rewind back in his story, Brad sitting, I don't remember where you said you were sitting, but you have an old guy that's probably a lifer there look at you and say, hey kid, is this what you're going to do for the rest of your life?
Yeah, I don't. I was asked that 2 times on 2 other podcasts. Like, hey, did you ever catch that guy's name? And no. If this man walked in front of me right now, I wouldn't know who he was. But like, it's etched. Like I could see his face, but I wouldn't recognize him if he walked up. He was
This
just
reminds me of Mr. Jackson from Damon West's story, right? But he got to know him and then found out his name much later and got to know the family. But I'm just sitting here going like, dude, that's God, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so what people need to understand and listen, wherever you're at in your walk of faith, for those listening, God's speaking at all times to us. And it's when we're in a position, it's like that classic saying of when the student is ready, the teacher appears. You weren't ready until that moment. And that man said one sentence to you. He asked you one question and you never had another interaction again. And it completely changed your life. You got your GED in prison. You fell in love with personal development and studying muscle and fitness. And now all those steps and choices that you made since that one interaction has directed your life. There are choices you made, but you actually listened to that voice in your head that many people ignore. And that took a lot from that conversation, or just, I'm sorry, that one question that one old man asked you.
Yeah. Changed everything, Josh. And, you know, I don't know if I told you this the other day when we were on the phone. We just moved out into, you know, we got some property, and on the property, there's a pretty long stretch that I do my outside workouts at for 75 hard. And I really want everyone to just pay attention to this next part, because especially people who are going through it. Is that part of, like, is this personal development, people who are going through mental stuff, kind of that's the avatar of who our listeners are, right?
Leaders,
Leaders, right?
Yeah.
Right. Personal development. I was walking, I was doing my outside, and it was nightfall, my house lights up. Really, really cool thing to look at from afar. And I was walking, and for some reason, I went back when I first got locked up. I got dropped onto the compound with one of the corrections officers knew my family, right? Because I got transferred back up to Pennsylvania. And in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, an inmate can have any affiliation with any of the corrections officers, zero connection. So in that transition, I was in solitary confinement, which they call the hole, the shoe, whatever you want to call it. But it's about a 4x8 box. And I was in there for almost a year waiting a transfer. Now, I just want to put this in perspective. I want to create a mental picture. This room was 2 to 3 stories underneath the ground. It went down. No natural sunlight. It was about a 4x8 foot room. It had one steel bed. It was a bunk bed, but it had a steel bed, steel bunk up top. Off to the right, there was a steel shitter, and on the back of the shitter was your sink. Literally 4x8 box. And when you sit there, and this is, you know, when the pandemic hit, part of our growth was being able to stop and think, my wife and I. Let me take you back into this hole. When you're in the hole for almost a year, you think about a lot. You think about, how did I get here? Like, how did I get here? And I even analyze it now. All that shit that I went through growing up in prison, getting incarcerated, that landed me in a 4x8 box. Here's this little drug dealer who thought he was the toughest guy in the world, has literally been plucked and put underneath the ground. And all I could think of was, if I was gone right now, if I was gone, just gone, no one would ever hear from Brad Modrich again. It would literally, the thought was literally like a piece of sand on the beach. I'd be lost, I'd be gone. And no one would ever think about it. You don't think about a grain of sand on the beach. You just don't think about it. No one does. Mm-hmm. That's where I was putting myself. And I'm walking outside, and for some reason, I literally went right back into that space. I remember looking at the bunk underneath. I remember the gray walls. I remember the institutional just feeling. And I'm looking at this gorgeous life that my wife and I created. This amazing life that we have. And at that time, like, I'm looking at this, and I was just overwhelmed with gratitude and love. And there was just mixed emotions. I started fucking crying, bro. It was just so overwhelming, because in that time, I remember I could take a sheet, and I was trying to rig it to try to figure out, like, how can I hang myself in this room, in this cell? I thought about trying to you get this plastic wear and, I tried to get the heat on the plastic, on the concrete, to try to make it sharp. You try everything, you try everything. And the reason why I'm bringing you back to this story is I don't care what season you're in, I don't care what journey you're in. One thing I do know is that time did pass and I became stronger and I learned from it. The most
This
important
too
part
shall
of
pass.
this too shall pass, right? Nothing you're going through will last forever. And I think the added extra piece on why I was so overwhelmed with emotion is because of my walk in my faith right now and really trying to figure out what that purpose is, right? I'm obviously here for a reason. I'm still trying to figure it out. And for my leaders out there, we must continue to put one foot in front of the other, day over day, week over week, month over month, year over year. And for 20 years, my head has been down. Now, don't get me wrong. We lived a great life. I don't want to make it sound like it was doom and gloom for 20 years. But then this magical thing happens and you start to realize that your purpose is pouring into other people
Mm-hmm.
and helping others. And it's not even about the money. It's about the impact. And if I would have figured out some way, shape, or form on how to leave this earth permanently, my body, we wouldn't be having this phone call today.
Yeah. That's so powerful. Though, man, that actually might be one of the more powerful, if not the most powerful parts of your story, because as I think about it and understand, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the whole is for people that are they're afraid are going to hurt themselves or a threat to others or did something really, really bad. You were there by happenstance for almost a year, just because the correction officer at that prison knew your sister.
Mm-hmm.
So you were there by utter happenstance, put in the worst spot that a human being can be put, in a hole in isolation. And for those of us that know anything about isolation, know why that's so bad and why it's bad for human beings, because we're hardwired to be in relationships with others. And so to be in isolation for almost 12 months by happenstance is unbelievable. And for you to develop that mental strength to not take your own life and be the impact that you are today for not just your family, but all the people that you are having an impact, including me.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I was overwhelmed, man, because I started to think of the relationships, the people that are in my life, the men and women, like our Warriors for Christ group. And that really kind of pulled on me hard, that I just had a group of guys like you guys that just I'll start crying now again. It just was literally, it was so overwhelming. That it's I was trying to explain this. If my emotions were topical, they would literally be right on the top of my skins. That's how easy it is to touch these emotions of gratitude and happiness and joy. And it's literally, it's not a woe is me cry. They're tears of just pure happiness and joy. Right? Yeah. So powerful.
Yeah. So let's fast forward a little bit now, because I think this is also a really impactful part of your story and what you're currently doing. I don't think most men would do. I could be wrong, but I have not seen this, and I think it's really a testament to who you are as a man, as a husband, and as a strategic business leader. So just for context, Brad has taken his foot off his gas on his own personal desires and career to fully live into his wife's dream of starting her business. Just want to say that, like, I'm not sure you put your own career aspirations on hold to fully assist your wife in launching her business. And I'm not 100%. Sure most men would do that. I think a lot of men would say they would, but when it came time to put the rubber on the road, I'm not sure that a lot of men would. And especially as ambitious as I know you are, like if we replicated you into someone, like it's just interesting. So I want to say, like, it almost seems like it was an easy decision for you. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what, so walk us through, why was that the decision for you?
Yeah. And it's very hard. And those of you, if you guys don't know my wife is just as alpha as us. She's extremely A dominant, very strong woman. Like she doesn't play around. She's not in for the bullshit. Um, so when I was getting ready to leave, first off, there were some things going on at LA Fitness that, they happen in corporate America. It just happens. It's part of the game. She was going through nursing school, fell into aesthetics, and she just fell in love with it. She loved everything about it. And she was coming home and she was telling me like some things that were going on in her day-to-day actions. And I was just like, we got to open one. And she was just like, calm down there, Tiger. She's just like, I'm like, no, like we got to open one. Like we got to do this. Like the numbers just make sense. So fast forward, she really dove into it. And I don't want to take anything away from her. I want to be very clear. I just left when she was at the point where what she was doing was more than what I was making at LA Fitness. I had the ability to transition and let her go into that full time. And I left my 20-year career. Like, and this was the fucked up, the craziest part about it, Josh. When we originally had this conversation, my wife and I, it wasn't, hold on, let me help you build your dream. There was a very clear conversation. Like, if I'm going to stay at home, I got to become Susie Homemaker. So I want to be clear that it was much harder than even just like helping me push her dream. The initial conversation was, you need to stay home and take care of Nat, make sure she's getting off the bus, she's still in school, her grades are on point, the house is taken care of, the dogs are taken care of, there's food, dinner on the table every night. Like, you need to become Mr. Mom. I said, okay, let's do it. Let's go. I will make sure that
Why
the
was
home
that easy
front
for you though, Brad? Because I want to lean on this. Like, so many men would not accept that because of their ego, pride, or whatever. And maybe it is your backstory. I don't know, but like, I just keep coming back to, because I coach and lead a lot of men. I don't know many. I just don't know many that would say, yep, I'll do that.
One, I knew that if she was going to get into this element and I could break away, there was some personal things. One, there was some corporate BS that I was not okay with. I was at the point in my Arate career, right? This was 2018. I was drinking all of the juice of Arate. I was already part of First Form since 2016, 15, watching Andy. I was on this personal development of know your self-worth. So as all of this personal development was happening, something was happening it was God just putting everything into place. Now I know that, just kind of aligning everything. But something was going on at LA Fitness where I wasn't okay with. And I was just for the first time starting to understand what my worth was, for a time. And I want to be clear, LA Fitness, my wife and I would not be where we're at if I did not have the corporate infrastructure from LA Fitness to guide me and pay me what they paid me for my career. Like, but as you start to evolve, you start to understand what you're worth.
Yeah.
And I knew for what I was worth, I wasn't getting compensated for what I thought the value was. So for me, it was an easy, okay, well, I know my self-worth. I know I'll build something. Like, there was just faith in me, and combined with faith in my wife, because I know what she's about. So having that faith in both of us, I felt at ease. We had enough money secured. We had, like, we weren't going to go broke. I wasn't just going to make a stupid move and just leave. Like, there was a strategic game plan to make sure income was coming in prior to me just jumping ship and leaving a $200,000 a year job.
Yeah.
Right. So for me, it was like the exciting part. I leaned into it. right? Like, first off, my wife's doing something that she loves, and you got to understand the narrative from behind. For 20 years, I've intentionally supported my wife. If she wanted to be a fucking flower maker, go be a flower maker. If you wanted to knit sweaters, just go knit sweaters. My job as a husband was to support that role and help her get to wherever she wants, while I was still kind of holding whatever weight I had to carry. And I think that's where the transition comes, where most men won't do. If I'll shovel shit to support my family, me personally, I will physically go shovel shit if I have to provide an income for my family. I'm not scared to do that at all. Why couldn't I stay at home and be a Mr. Mom? Like, sure, I'll go shovel shit if I have to, but I won't go home and take care of the dogs and learn how to cook. I wasn't a cooker. I could cook. I'm Chef Boyardee in the kitchen now. I learned some life skills, right? So for me, it was an easy trade. Like, it really was easy. I believed in my wife. I believed in myself. If I said that I'd go shovel shit for someone, which I don't have to, I get to stay at my home and play with my dogs and really work on figuring out what I want to do next. And I was going to do the coaching program. I was going to be a coach. I was going to be a fitness coach. I was going to do gym sales. Like, I bounced around like a ping pong. 2019 was the most unstable mental space I was ever in, because I didn't know, like, LA Fitness was part of my identity. It was who I was. I still can walk around the Allentown area and it's immediately Brad from LA Fitness. Like, there's an immediate connection to this fitness industry here, specifically LA Fitness in the Allentown area. It was my identity. It was all I did for 20 years. All I did was eat, breathe, and sleep LA Fitness. Like, if you look at my Facebook and you go back prior to 2019, you would have thought I was the marketing manager for fucking LA Fitness. Like, my whole feed was LA Fitness and personal development, right? So for me, it was an easy transition. And then I believed in my wife. She was super excited. She was doing something. She was making money. And then it just kind of transitioned where I was, we launched the credit repair company in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, because just again, giving back and pouring into it. I got 3 now amazing partners. But then it got to the point where my wife built up a substantial business, and we were really going to throw some gas on the fire. And I was like, let me do what I do. Let me help build this and scale this. Systems, process, culture, right? Let's create a very duplicatable process. And that's where we're at right now. And if you would have asked me 4 years ago, would I be the, part owner of an aesthetics medical spa, a credit repair company, own commercial property? Never in a million years. But I had faith in putting in the work. My wife had faith in putting in the work. And we have created a life that is pretty freaking good.
And you didn't let your ego get in the way.
Yeah, at all. At all. Egos are bullshit. I think it's just this false sense of it's an insecurity thing when you have an ego. And don't get me wrong. First off, I hear, and this is a fun fact. For years, my wife, when we went out into the area and someone saw my wife, it was like, oh my God, you're Brad's wife. Literally everywhere we would go. Oh, you're Brad's wife. Oh, you're Brad's wife. Oh, you're Brad's wife. Yes, I'm Brad. Like, it became like a funny thing, like, because she would hear it so much. Now the transition is, oh my God, you're Jan's husband. You're Jan's husband. You're Jan's husband. Oh my God, she's killing it. She's she's doing so great. Her business is blowing up. And don't get me wrong, there's this little thing inside me sometimes that I'm just like, I know it's my wife's business. Yes, she did an amazing job. And I'm just thinking of the load that I carried for the past like 2.5 years. But again, it's the ego.
Right. And that's such an important thing for others for us dudes to realize is hard. Like what you're just saying there is the dichotomy of that. Like, how many of our wives feel that on a day-to-day basis and the load they're carrying at home. And yet we don't recognize that, right? So that's such an important distinction, and why I want to talk about it today, because you were humble enough to take that step back on your own ambitions temporarily. And now even you telling me that story of being like, oh, you're Jan's husband, and you even experiencing that little thing in your chest or gut that goes, oh, yeah, but I also do this is like, you don't say it, like, right? But how many of our spouses, do that, have those same feelings? So I think it's just important for men to hear what you just said.
Yeah, bro. And for the men out there, like, don't forget, it's an important part. Now let's peel that back though, because there was, how do you make that work? You gotta communicate, right? I think one thing a lot of couples don't do at home, and there's a little bit of a different dynamic at our house, because not only are we husband and wife, but we're business partners, right? So some work definitely for a while was coming home, and we were at the point like, listen, when we're home, just cut that shit off. Like, we're done. I don't want to talk about it no more. It's not the environment. You worked all day. I got this all day. Let's just move forward. You play with she loves crossword puzzles now. She loves crossword. Do your crossword puzzles, do your thing. Let's just decompress and get back. But setting expectations is where I was going with this. And just communicating and just understanding what each other's roles are. And why it's important that we do that. So like, I hold her accountable to do certain things, and she has to, uphold her end still at home. Because I know when I worked a 13, 14-hour day, I would still come home and I would do the dishes. I would still come home and take out the garbage. I would still come home and empty the dishwasher. I would wake up and still make sure on the weekend, I was like this OCD on Sunday. I would always clean. I would do this. I would help out. Like, and that's the one part where I think guys drop the ball. So the same expectation that I held for my wife, I had to hold for her when she's in that lead role now.
Yeah.
Like, I did it
Yeah.
when I was working, and I was working 70 hours a week. You're only working like 35 hours a week. Right. But it's working really well right now.
Yeah.
And who knows, we're at that funny point. Do we scale it? Can she carry that? Does she want to carry that workload? Because we can continue to do what we're doing right now, and I can fall back on kind of what I want to ramp up, because my vision and my dream, it's not off. It's just literally, we put it on pause so we can get her to where she needs to be. And that's the most important thing. And where this all came from, to answer your question, bro. I know I went on a tangent there. We were, where were we? I went down to see a possible business investment in Fort Myers. And this was last year. Even though I was doing what I was doing on the back end, my wife wanted me more into the day-to-day interactions at the spa. She wanted, my presence to be there, to manage the girls, and just to kind of do things that, I was stronger suited for, right? Smart business decision, right? And she was always just kind of feeding me. And I'm just like, honey, let me do what I do from the back end. I will give you the chess pieces to move and how to say this and how to communicate. Like, well, I'll manage you and just kind of give you what I've learned. And then you go manage your team. Like, I'll teach you, I'll be your coach. And she was like, okay. So I was still trying to figure it out. So I was down looking at a possible franchise investment with one of our Arte guys. And I went and had dinner with Bill Ryman.
Yeah.
Builder Bill. And it was me, his now wife, fiance at the time, Elizabeth, and Daniel Good. And we're sitting there, and we're talking about the business and the revenue and some numbers. And Bill looks at me. He goes, I know you're down here, you want to do this investment and you want to start building up your brands and your, whatever it is that you want to do. And he leans into me and he goes, why don't you just play the hand that you've been dealt? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, if everything that you're saying it is what it is, you've literally been dealt a royal flush, ace high. Literally, you've been dealt a royal flush, ace high. Why are you not playing that hand? And I'm just like, well, it's not mine. He goes, really? It's not. He goes, it's yours. He's like, what are you talking about? He goes, because your name's not on the front of the building. He goes, that is the hand you've been dealt. If I were in your situation, he goes, the only reason why I'm saying this, he goes, I struggled with what I was going to do with the construction company and how he was going to navigate. And someone said to him, Bill, you have this amazing construction company that if you play your cards right, you're like the heir to this. You're the leader of it. Why aren't you playing this out? And he was like, oh, it's my dad's company. He was like, my ego got in the way. He's like, play the hand you've been dealt. He goes, sometimes we're so busy looking at what everyone else's hand is, and we don't look at what that hand has been dealt. He goes, because of egos, pride, whatever it is. He goes, I'm looking at your hand right now, bro. You got a royal flush. Play that hand. And I'm just like, and sometimes when shit just kind of, it goes off, and I went home and I talked to my wife, and I'm just like, you know what, are you open to this? And she was like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to get my ground running. And that's when we immediately went in. I went and looked for our new location, getting ready to launch the Institute of Injectables. We're building out that new brand and looking on second locations. We got our new headquarters, and I literally just went in and just opened up, a whole other avenue for just aesthetic nursing.
That's awesome. Hey, I want to give you this analogy. I heard it a long time ago, and I think every couple should hear this. Mm. You're the black velvet. She's the diamond in this instance. But she should be the black velvet and you the diamond in any given instance. Like, we should be making each other shine. And for those that aren't grasping this concept, anytime you go to a jewelry store and you are shown a piece of nice jewelry, diamonds, diamond ring, anything, rubies, whatever, there's a black velvet that it's presented on, and they usually have some really nice lights that shine on it to make it even shinier. Right? But that black velvet helps that diamond stand out. The black velvet doesn't get as much recognition as the diamond that's on that black velvet, but it's just as integral in selling that diamond.
Yeah.
It's the most integral piece. And so for 20 years, she might've been your black velvet, you the diamond, and now it's you've switched roles. But I think every couple should use that as their mantra. Be the black velvet for your spouse. Like, why would you take anything away from them? It doesn't make you a bigger man by any means. It makes you a lesser man.
I gotta write that down. I love that, bro. Be the black velvet. And it's so funny that you're saying that. And I remember all throughout my career, I said it publicly. I said it to her. I said it in front of our family. I would not have been able to do what I did at LA Fitness if I didn't have her. She was the black velvet. Yeah. She really was. She took care of the house. She took care of the kids. She even opened up a couple side hustles, did really well with it. Like, she was literally that black velvet. Like, I would literally come home every night, Monday through Friday at 7:00. And there was a full spread. I would literally walk in like King fucking Sharuk, like just sit down at this meal, like, oh, right? Like, I literally every day, she was like religious with it. And listen, my wife, when you meet my wife loves to cook just as much as she loves business and aesthetics. First and foremost, her first love is cooking, like comfort food. So from the pastas, and she's Italian and Ukrainian. So she has all these great Ukrainian dishes and all these great Italian dishes. And then on top of it, her mom was married to an Arab too. So she knows how to make all my Arabic food too. So it's like, I got like the golden goose egg with her when it comes to cooking.
Man. All right. Last thing I want to touch on. I want to touch on mindset, because I know it's your favorite thing. And we've danced around this a little bit with it, talking about ego, talking about self-development, personal development, all that different stuff. The last question I want to get into to leave with the audience, because you're so strong in this. What's the mindset difference for someone living an average life versus someone that's succeeding in a big way in all areas of their life?
What's the major difference? I think if we can get granular with it, it's two things. The first two things that I say the difference is, one, extreme ownership. It's the ownership, the accountability part of it. And it's what I feel has helped me supersede all of my expectations of what I wanted to do for myself, was being able to control the conversation in your head. I am so adamant that that narrative that you have in your head, most people don't know how to control. And what I've learned, where all of my growth comes from, and we talked about, you know, the Echelon Front team and Jocko and all those guys. And don't get me wrong, I love Andy and Ed. All of you, they're two of my mentors. My superpower became detaching and being able to control my emotions in that conversation that was in my head. Detached, like the ability to detach, like stop, shit's going crazy, whatever it's going on, argument with your wife, argument with your business partner, money not where it needs to be, whatever that negative kind of thing that's churning in there, you stop it. Like, and this is hard. Like, this is another muscle that you gotta work. Just like your biceps, your chest, it's a muscle that you gotta work. You gotta contract it. You gotta force it to work sometimes. It's stopping that conversation and backing off and saying, okay, let's talk about what's real. Looking at it like it's a physical thing, that conversation, that whatever's going on in your head is just a real fucking thing. You're looking at it. Oh, and even if you want to just zoom out even more, almost like you're looking at yourself in that situation, like you're detaching. Now you're seeing it with a different lens. This has literally been my superpower for mental toughness. Is it real? That's the first question I always say, is what's really going on real? Like, what am I worried about? Why am I worried about this? And I'm going to show you how this escalated into real life tactical use. As you're going through your day-to-day, your hardwiring is a neural pattern, right? Habits are neural patterns. We've talked, you know, we talk about this, right? Neural patterns. It's just a habit, right? It's that concept of like when you're driving and you're thinking about a million different things, and all of a sudden you're at your location, like, how the fuck did I get here? Just muscle memory. It's a neural pattern. Your anatomic system's working and everything's just kind of going on cruise control. That happens in the conversation in your mental toughness, because you're so used to what that conversation turns into and how it self-feeds itself. So if that conversation's going on and you can't stop it, like physically just, boom, stop. Okay, and I'm just going to use my wife as an analogy. Okay, and not that any of this is kind of going on. Okay, she's mad. She's upset about ABC. Okay, first thing, accountability. What could I have done different? This is where most people drop the ball. What could I have done different? Did I do something wrong?
What part of the problem?
Okay, what part of the problem is me? How? You know what? I did not communicate that properly. If I would have communicated that properly, here, literally, bro, this just happened. I didn't communicate something properly with, we're doing a new website. My team is frustrated. My wife just expressed some of her concerns to me. She's frustrated. Immediately, I went into, I did wrong. I did not communicate this. So right before our call, or when she called, I said, listen, I'm so sorry. That was my fault. I screwed up. Let me get this back on track and let me explain this properly in an email. Gone. Stress is gone. She's okay. She accepted it. She received it. That would have never happened if I didn't detach, stop, and look at it. And then have that first point of ownership. What can I do different? Or what did I not do? Or what can I do? That in most cases, when you have that little, and it happens so quick, it's bang, 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 because we're so emotional. We're so stimulated by just that reactiveness, right? Right? Like, I'm sure for you, when If you ever get into a fight, you protect your chin. It's just a natural instinct from your boxing, right? Your hands go up, you're protecting your face, protect your face, right? It's instinctual to you, right? We are in a society where everyone is just so reactive and quick to pull the trigger. So let that superpower for mental toughness, and this can go back to, let me dial this back to people who are struggling with their health. I got to get up. I got to go to the gym. Let's stop. I don't want to do it. It's warm right now. I could lay under the covers. I could sit here all day. I don't have to get up. I'll start tomorrow. If you could stop that conversation and say, okay, what is real? No, my ass needs to get to the gym. What can I do different? What do I have to do? I have to get up out of bed right now. And then you take action.
Yep.
It works in anywhere you just stop, look at it, see it from a different lens. What can you do personally to change? Or what did you do to cause this? Accountability. And then once you've slowed down that process, you take out the emotions and you see that from a different lens, then you make the call.
Love it.
That technique is just, it's so important for mental toughness, because then what happens over time is now I've created a new neural pattern. I'm almost too calm in situations where it freaks people the fuck out. Like, it's just like, why are you so calm right now? Well, me getting emotional isn't going to help anything. Me getting upset isn't going to control anything, because I could turn the Hulk on like that, and that doesn't help any situation at all. Daughter just got in a car accident. Second car in 2 years. First thing I said in my mind, and this is my fault, well, why does my daughter drive like an asshole? Let's detach. Okay, well, first things first, what did I do wrong?
This is after you knew she was okay, though, right?
After, of course.
Yeah.
Right. Of course. Like the second, are you okay? Are you okay? Can you hear? Of course, for sure. But where my wife, and you got to remember, this is my second car, my daughter wrecked, completely totaled 2 cars in 2 years, 2 brand new cars, mind you. Me getting all emotional, going all out of sorts, is that going to help any? And the first thing I said was, okay, is she okay? Number one, she's okay. Okay, why does she do this? What did I do in this? Right? Because it's a neural pattern now for me. What did I do to create this? Well, you drive like an asshole, and she's seen you drive like an asshole. You taught her this. That's my fault. How can I get mad? She drives like an idiot. I drive like an idiot. This was like my lesson. Like, I got to stop driving like an idiot. And so, like, I had to go pick her up the other day, and I was driving speed limit. She's like, oh, are you okay? I'm like, what? I'm like, I can't, like, you're the reason why you were driving like an idiot. You were watching me drive like an idiot. I'm done driving like an idiot. I will be the example. But even going back, my wife comes home. We get to the house, and it was literally like World War III in my house last week. Like, I mean, our family's envelope got pushed. My daughter said some things that I never in a million years I thought I would hear come out of my little girl's mouth. My wife reacted in a way where I never in a million years think she would react. And it was just explosive. Fast forward. Everyone calms down. We go upstairs. I go to talk to Natalie before she goes to bed. I'm like, talk to me, honey. Like, what? Let's, you know me, I'm in solution mode. We got to fix this. We got to figure out the damage to the guy's yard. We got to figure out what we're going to do for your car, how you're going to get to work. Like, we got to go into solution mode. And she goes, Dad, why can't mom talk like that? Like, you didn't get mad. You were in complete control. This is the testament to control your emotions, control the conversation. And usually in most cases, when you're going through something, for your mental toughness, whatever that challenge is that's in front of you, if you can stop, detach, look at it, see it from a different perspective, then make a decision, in most cases, you're going to make the right decision.
Yeah. And to
And
your
it's going
point
to
on the
help you get through
calmness,
that.
yeah, absolutely. To your point on the calmness, the followers are always looking to the leader to see how
Always.
they're going to emotionally react. If the leader gets up in arms, or if the leader's stressed out, or whatever emotion you exhibit, that's how the rank and file will follow. That's as true in the military as it is in business, as it is in a household. So that as a leader, you getting control of your emotions is paramount to getting to that next level.
Yeah.
So
Can I just add one thing for the leaders on here? And I was in corporate. Are we still good on time?
yeah, fire away.
Yeah. Because of the leadership mantle to talk about, and this is just case in point. I remember when I was running my LA Fitness Allentown, we used Allentown as a location where I spit managers out into the market. We opened up the Reading location, Lancaster location, Harrisburg location, York location. Like we called Allentown the Scud Missile Project because I was just shooting managers out. I was just spitting them out, and they were like these little mini me's, right? Same tight haircut, same the way they worked. That they literally looked like me. And at the time, I remember Express was selling these flat front pants. Like I would send them like where to go to get their flat front pants, no pleats, nice shoes. Like we were all just following this gig. Not only did they dress like me, they acted like me. So what happened? All these managers go out into the field. I get promoted to VP. Now I have to manage all these guys again. So now I'm in a different lens. I'm in the VP role, not a GM role. But now I'm watching these guys and I'm seeing how reactive they are and how intense they are. And I'm just looking at them. First off, I'm just like, you weren't like this back then. They were like, well, I learned it from watching you. I'm like, yeah, but you're not me. Like, you got to do it with your own flavor. You can't mimic this is like, and there, it was so hard for me as a leader to hold them accountable, not to do it, because that's how I was. Like they learned, like that old thing. I learned it from watching you, Dad. Right? Like that old drug commercial. They learned it from watching us. And as leaders, our people, to case in point, our people are watching us, and they're going to do more of what we do than more of what we say. That's at the end of the day. That's how it's going to happen. It's monkey see, monkey do. That's just the logistics of it.
Yep.
So as a father, I mean, and as a business owner, as a leader, that ability, your mental capacity, that mental strength is in direct proportion to controlling the narrative, right? Discipline, do what you say you're going to do, control the emotions. All of those come into mental discipline, mental toughness to get you through that task, as challenging it may be. If you can do those couple things, and again, this is a muscle, you have to work it. You got to be consistent with it over time. Compound effect will happen, and you'll get to where you want to be.
100%.
Hope that helped.
No, that was awesome. So as we wrap up here, where can people connect with you?
Everything is Brad Modrich, BradModrich. If you do bradmodrich.com, everything comes up, all of my businesses, social handles. It's Brad Modrich on every single social aspect out there, from Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. It's just Brad Modrich, first and last name.
Love it. Thank you so much for pouring into our audience today. This was an amazing conversation. You got deep, you got vulnerable, you got humble, and you got mindset ready for us. I always love spending time with you, brother. And I know the audience is going to get a lot out of this. So in that regard, audience, make sure you share this episode. Brad gave us a lot to chew on, and I know that it'll impact lives. And so that is, our goal. Make
I appreciate
as big
that,
of an impact as possible. So
thanks.
As always, remember, the good and great are the enemies of possible. Lead like a Spartan today.